That is the worst possible way your wedding day could go. Cheating at the reception is crazy. What's up, little enzymes? Welcome back to Dacia's Digest. The topic of today's video, it's gonna be a 1-question post from the r/AskReddit subreddit. The question is, people who went to a wedding and the couple broke up soon, what happened to them? Before we get started, we have one thing. Shout out to Becca Hyam, I hope I'm saying that right, for buying me a coffee. Thank you. Ooh, where's my balloons? Come on, guys. Hold on. Woo! Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers by the end of September. I know that we can do it. As always, everything that you hear or see in this video will be linked in the description. So let's get into this. I like doing these Ask Reddit videos. They're just like little quick stories that are just like little bursts of interesting things. So I think it's also interesting to hear from a outsider on like some of these stories. Like we always hear from OP's perspective. Very rarely we might hear from a constituent in the story. So it's always interesting to hear the other perspective. Anyways, let's go into this. People who went to a wedding and the couple broke up soon, what happened to them? First person says, bride cheated on the groom with one of the groomsmen 2 days after the wedding. The groomsman was from out of town and was staying at the couple's house. They did it on the couch while the groom was asleep. They divorced immediately. She left halfway across the USA to be with the groomsman without much of a word to anyone due to immense guilt. She didn't even tell her own family. The groom told them. Groom was in shambles for months, seems to be doing better now, happened in February of this year, 7 years down the drain. Edit, he found out because the bride was so stricken with guilt that she told him the next day. At least she said something, man, but that's crazy. 2 days after your wedding? You just started off the marriage on a completely wrong foot. Somebody said, did the groomsmen welcome her with open arms? And someone else responded, open crotch for sure. Oh no. Someone responded, yo, same thing happened to my cousin, but the bride cheated with one of her bridesmaids. It was a male bridesmaid, but he showed up in like a flashy suit and definitely upstaged them both. They divorced, and shortly after, the groom found another woman who he's been with for a year, and they're very happy. The bride is still around the family actually, and they seem to be on okay terms. Okay, I guess. Wow. Another person, I was at one where the bride and groom both got drunk at the reception. The groom punched the bride in the mouth. I know you lying. And the bride's brother beat his ass. Everyone got arrested and they filed for an annulment as soon as they were bailed out. They wasted them people's time coming out there for that wedding. They knew they shouldn't even got married in the first place. Child. Someone responded, my brother was at a wedding like this, but the cops were called and the bride and groom were arrested. Somebody said, I would have paid money to be at this wedding. Another person responded, I was in the ER at the same time a wedding party came in with multiple stab wounds and various injuries from a brawl. Apparently, it was some sort of Romeo and Juliet situation. During the reception, the bride and groom's families started outright brawling and trying to fatally harm each other. Bride was sobbing by the side of the stabbed groom. Oh Lord. Her white dress was splattered in blood and makeup was streaming down her face. Police came in and were interviewing everyone. I was in for anaphylaxis and was across from the groom's room. My mom was in the waiting room. We compared notes when I was released. I would love to know more details and if that couple is still together. That's a mess, child. That is that is the worst possible way your wedding day could go. Your family and the groom's family get into a literal brawl and are trying to unalive each other. That's crazy. Someone says the groom filed for divorce half a year after the wedding because he got rid of the depression. Oh, he got rid of the depression thanks to bride, and since he's now healed, he wants to see what life has to offer him. See, they say took the bride some time to get over it, but she started dating again after 3 years of healing and is really happy now. This is why men deserve less. This is why some men deserve less. This is also why you shouldn't be trying to fix anyone, trying to overly help anyone past just the normal limit of helping people, because once you love them back to health, they're gonna do just like this young man did to this young lady and leave. So don't do it. Stop letting that man use your car, sis. Stop giving him money. Stop helping him. I'm just saying. Someone responded, I have heard of people who lose a lot of weight or start making a lot of money do this. Leave the person who stood by them to get an upgrade that they quote unquote deserve. Another person, bride's dad and brothers were proud military men. Groom bonded with them initially over his service as well because it was sort of how they defined themselves. Bride's family encouraged Groom to wear his uniform for the wedding, so he did. All wedding pictures, the groom in his uniform was prominent. Found out shortly after the wedding, upon being pressured to take out a GI loan for the house, that the groom admitted he was never in the military and had bought his uniform off eBay. Come on now. One day I should do a video on stolen valor. There's these videos I see of guys pretending that they are or were servicemen and actual servicemen, calling them out on it, and they call it stolen valor because you wasn't out there with them fighting and you acting like you was. That's crazy. To cosplay as a soldier in real life, to the fact that to the point where you are buying a uniform off eBay to wear on your wedding day. This uniform is in all of your wedding photos, and you have legit actual military men that you are standing next to. That's diabolical. Somebody said the brother and father are either incredibly stupid or that dude went the extra mile and learned tons of jargon and SOP, because you can't fake that kind of thing off the top of your head. Someone said, I was thinking the same. I was in the military, and anyone who pretended to be in my branch would be spotted in a second. Every branch has their own jargon and inside jokes that are impossible to fake. Even being a vet, I could never begin to pass for a Marine or Air Force. Somehow, I don't know, somehow he did it. Maybe he befriended someone who was in the military and essentially just stole their story, just borrowed all the details from them. Someone else says, the bride had gotten a personal trainer to look good for the wedding. The marriage lasted 3 weeks because it turned out she started sleeping with the personal trainer. It was a nice wedding though. Oh man. The next person, pre-wedding night, after many drinks and celebration with family and wedding party, everyone returned to their hotel room. Bride and groom got into an altercation mid-coitus. She was 5'11" and he was 6'4", ex-amateur baseball player. Bride punched the living daylights out of the groom while straddling him. I can't. How does that situation come to be? Groom takes off in nothing but a towel. My date was the best man, and the entire wedding party were woken up by family members to go find the groom to make sure he doesn't off himself. Oh my goodness. Groom was found and talked down from the ledge at 6:30 a.m. What happened? Everyone knew what happened, but no one knew if the wedding was going forward. I was packing my luggage to leave when I was approached by the mother of the groom to put makeup on her son to cover his broken nose and bruises around his eyes. They did not take him to the hospital. What? Bride walked down the aisle like nothing happened, and it's her happiest day while he looked like a battered panda with a chipped tooth. They managed to be married for 9 months, 9 longer than we all anticipated. I'm trying to figure out what happened between pre-wedding night and him getting punched, and then him having to be talked down from the ledge. Mid-coitus is crazy. Well, glad they got a divorce. They shouldn't have got married in the first place. They tried to put makeup over the situation, literally and figuratively. The next person says, she got into a bad car wreck and changed. Physically, she recovered, but mentally, she was a totally different person. Before the wreck, she was committed to her career and wanted a house and a family. After the wreck, she became a hippie, experimenting with illicit substances and traveling the country in a van. Unclear if it was the concussion/brain injury or the PTSD from the whole ordeal. Dang, that sucks. That's unfortunate. Someone responded to that. Brain injury can change someone's personality. I've had some family members with concussions or strokes, and it's a shift for sure. That's sad. Another person responded, my uncle's last wife was this very clean, organized, responsible person. She had multiple minutes of oxygen loss to her brain during a surgery. The next several months consisted of her becoming an angry, bitter, harmful person who drained every last penny they had as a couple on BS. My uncle had to basically reboot his entire financial life at nearly 60 years old. He will likely never be able to fully retire, but my dad was kind enough to buy a decent-sized house and rent it to him for like $200 a month. Oh, that's good. Another comment, 2 days after the wedding, he ran off with the upstairs neighbor. They are still together 40 years later. He was a total crap for going through with the wedding in the first place. Oh yeah, because they was messing around way before the wedding came about. The fact that him and the neighbor are still together 40 years, they was messing around. Ain't no way you just 2 days after the wedding, you just all of a sudden hit up the neighbor. That's crazy. Another person, during the reception, the bride's niece accidentally knocked over a drink that splashed the bride's shoes, and she backhanded her in front of everyone. Whoa! It caused a huge fight, and the groom walked out right then. Oh, yeah, I would have too. Ain't no freaking way. You put your hands on my niece or nephew? Ain't no way. For splashing a drink accidentally? Like, ain't no way. Someone else, according to my buddy, he just realized they were better off as friends than married, so they divorced. It was amicable and totally uninteresting. They haven't kept in touch. Another friend found out his wife was cheating on him. She went on a trip to visit friends in San Francisco. When he texted her after her plane was due to arrive, she told him, San Francisco is great, I just got there. And it stuck in his mind as weird that she said there instead of here. He already apparently had some suspicions, so he reached out to the people she was supposedly visiting, and they told him she wasn't there. I guess they were prepared to cover for her, only to the extent they didn't actually have to lie. Anyways, this all played out on Facebook back when posts started with, your name is. So he put, Bob is wondering who his wife is with. It's the reason I joined Facebook, to follow the drama. Anyways, he's happily remarried with kids. So back in the day, Facebook, I don't know if they still have it. I don't use Facebook like that anymore. But they would have where you could have the status, and it's like Daisha is, recording Reddit videos, or it had like that format to the statuses. So I said, Bob is wondering who his wife is with. Someone said, I went to a wedding of friends of my husband a long time ago. There was a betting board for how long the relationship would last at the reception. Pretty much everyone, including the groom's parents, bet on a square. They had been together since high school and university. They were both starting good jobs and were not pregnant. For them, it appeared as though they were both just doing the next logical step in the relationship instead of asking themselves if they really wanted to be together. It lasted less than a year. The fact that people were betting at the reception, y'all couldn't have said something before I walked down the aisle to try to convince me. But maybe they did say something and they just didn't listen. Some people just don't listen. Someone said they spent so much money on a destination wedding, they didn't even last 6 months. He cheated on her with a 70-year-old lady. We were all 33 to 34 years old. Wow. Someone responded to that and said, similar story, spent tons on a destination wedding, got divorced 20 days later. Apparently, the girl was still in love with her ex and didn't want to remain married anymore. Married for less than a month, less than 3 weeks. Why? Why do people do this? At the very least, I would try to push the wedding out. I wouldn't just continue to go forward with it if I'm not. Oh man. I guess some people just feel like they just can't. Another comment, bride basically immediately started cheating on the groom with their next door neighbor and who knows how many others. She got herself a bachelor pad apartment and moved out, insisting they needed to work on the marriage. We all assume he only ended up filing after a couple months because his family forced the issue once they found out what was happening. Dude was crying about winning her back during COVID and is now, at the very least, emotionally cheating on his second current wife with the first wife. Oh my, come on, man. We are all simply waiting for them to blow up their current second marriages and remarry and watch them pretend they're both not spineless scumbags. That he's down bad. He whipped. She cheating on you with the next door neighbor and who knows how many others. Got herself a bachelorette pad and moved out after you were already married and now is still cheating on her current partner with you. That's crazy. Someone said, Groom was my cousin. They had been together for almost a decade. He had a stroke very young. Oh, wow. That prompted the wedding. Then the complications came. He had seizures. Her world continued to expand. His shrank. They didn't make it to their second wedding anniversary. Ooh, that's a sad one. Wow. Almost a decade. I guess the sickness and health part didn't really register to her when she took the vows. I mean, I understand though. I know what it's like to have to take care of someone who is sick, and it is not easy. So I do understand. That's just an unfortunate situation. Maybe they could have tried to get a caretaker or something, but just even seeing your loved one sick is whew, it's tough. Anyways, next comment. I used to work in a photo lab that offered, at a premium, hand-printed photos and enlargements, no automated printers, just me and a real nice enlarger. We noticed one day when we were recalling our late pickups that a wedding set that had been paid for 6 months earlier had not been picked up. We called the bride and left a message, and she came by the next day and had us toss them in the garbage as the marriage lasted 6 weeks. They paid $2,500 for the photographer and a big wedding-proof print package. Oops. It was nice to get the drawer space back again, I guess. Dang, 6 weeks? Someone says, went to a friend's wedding and he found out a few days later that she was hooking up with a guy at her job. Lucky for him, they didn't turn in any of their legal marriage paperwork yet, so it really wasn't as big of a deal as it could have been. I'm just trying to figure out, how do these people make it to, why marry someone if you know you already, I want to know the environment surrounding all of these situations because it don't make no sense. Another person, ex-wife divorced me for the guy she cheated with, married him the day our divorce was final. 4 months later, called me to come pick up our son as they were having a tiff, and he wanted to leave. called me again before we made it back home, begging me to come stay with me. I said no, but my son said, "Dad, please let mom come over, or at least till she can find a hotel or something." So I agreed to allow her to hang out for a bit. She gets there, and within 30 minutes of her arrival, her current husband shows up and starts being an a-hole immediately. I very politely told him, "Bruh, you gonna have to take your butt away from my house. I'm only doing this because my son wanted me to. Don't get hurt over her messing around." He respected my statement and did as I requested. She left like 3 hours later to go to a hotel somewhere, and the next morning, her divorce paperwork was served to my door. It was odd telling the sheriff's deputy she wasn't here and I don't know where she went, and having him not believe me. Wow, that's a mess. Another person says, I went to a wedding where the couple split up within a year because they realized they had completely different life goals. It was awkward running into them separately at mutual friends' events, as every conversation felt like a reminder of the mess. They eventually moved on, but the fallout was pretty noticeable for a while. Someone responded, "It's baffling that life goals never came up before the wedding. I know the life goals of many of my friends. It's a natural topic to come up with people you care about." That's what I'm trying to figure out. Y'all got all the way to talking about marriage but skipped over the life goals? Somebody said, "I think sometimes people are happy to overlook things like that, thinking love conquers all, but it becomes very apparent it does not. Or they think the partner will change to do things the way they want, and they do not." I think this is a valuable lesson. If you're thinking about getting married and your partner explicitly says, "I want A," and you say, "I want B," don't go into it thinking, well, maybe they'll want B like me, or maybe we can both want C. No. Don't go into any relationship, marriage or not, thinking that you're going to be able to change, or someone is going to change into. No. You have to accept situations as they are, not how you want them to be. Someone else responded to that and said, "I don't particularly want kids. My ex said he didn't like and didn't want kids. He's now moved in with his affair partner who has a kid and needs more. Sometimes people lie." Someone else responded, "Catholics have the wedding classes often as a requirement for a church wedding, and it's multiple couples all going through the same exercises and such in front of each other. It's not uncommon to find out only then that she has 7 maxed out credit cards, or he has no intention of having kids and they're gone the next class." Honestly, I think everyone should go through pre-major life change classes before you have a kid, before you get married, before you buy a house. I can't think of any other like major life changes off the top, but just going through some sort of class or education before you make those decisions is a good idea. You can avoid making some mistakes, or you can find out that you're not actually ready to make the decision you were about to make. Oh my goodness. The next comment says, "Groom went missing between the ceremony and reception. The bride found him banging the best man in the toilets." Oh, Lord. Not you cheating at your reception, bro. At the reception, in the building, with the best man. Somebody responded, "Why is there so many stories about the bride or groom freaking someone else at the wedding? Like, geez, you want to cheat but can't wait at least a day?" Right. Someone said, "I'm a photographer. I was photographing a wedding and the bride was a nightmare. Signed a contract outlining exactly what I'd do, what she would receive, etc. Immediately started demanding extra services, more images I had already over-delivered, images of things that didn't even happen, nor was the desire for them ever communicated to me so I could set them up. She tried to get people to bomb all my socials with bad reviews, but apparently nobody else actually likes her either because they just messaged me telling me what she was doing. She occasionally messaged to demand all the other photos and abruptly stopped like 4 months later. Turns out she was just as ridiculous and demanding with her new husband, and he bailed. Another photographer, I was asked to take some photos at a wedding, not the official photos type, but just atmosphere stuff. I didn't know the couple that well. They had been together a good few years. The wedding was expensive, everything the bride wanted. I'm at my best a hobby photographer, but I got some good photos. I was really happy with the results and was processing them through Photoshop, but put the best ones on a CD to send to the happy couple, only to find out that they had decided to divorce. She wanted kids, he didn't. Deal breaker. The response that I was gonna say, how did they not have that conversation before getting married? Honestly, how do these conversations not come up? You don't know that your man don't want no kids. Another person, they married in February, divorce started in July. She didn't want to accept his kids from a previous relationship. Like literally none of her family knew about the kid. The woman was jealous when her husband bought flowers for his grandmother. She used to stay over with her sister and brother-in-law and sleep between them in the same bed. Super cuckoo. Someone responded, at least this ended in divorce. My cousin's first wife didn't want his daughter around once they had a kid together, so he shipped her off to his parents. They no longer speak to each other. That's terrible. You ship your daughter off because your new wife doesn't want them around? What kind of father? I would go no contact too. Another comment, they married at 18, each to escape overbearing parents and home life. Her parents were helicopter parents obsessed with their kid doing everything first in their extended family. His family were extremely religious and harmful. The woman in this scenario is an extended family member. After getting married, he enlisted in the military, signing a multi-year contract without telling her about it until the night before he shipped out for basic training. Oh, yikes. She wanted to divorce right away, but her parents were too ashamed to have her divorce only 2 months after the marriage. So they convinced her to stick it out for another year before they filed for divorce anyway. Oh, wow. Sounds like the kids were just trying to get away from home and they knew the only way to do it was to agree to get married. But that's sad that they were both in an environment where they felt like that was the only way out. That just tells you their families were toxic. Someone says, I got married and found out 2 months later that she had been cheating since 6 months before the wedding. Could have saved a lot of money. Yikes. Another person, I was invited to the first wedding between 2 friends that ended up getting canceled because they broke up a few days before the wedding. A few days later, they got back together and rescheduled the wedding ceremony a few weeks later, but on a significantly smaller scale. I didn't go to the rescheduled second wedding because our mutual friend informed me a few days before that they just filed for divorce. Oh my goodness. Apparently, they just went to the city hall and got married by a justice of the peace on a whim. The smaller wedding ceremony was just going to be a get-together for friends, but they broke up again and filed for divorce before anything could happen. They were really just forcing it. Like, why even try? Just leave it be. Someone says, I was at an Indian wedding. The bride and groom were on stage and the groom's mom came on stage to feed the bride a sweet. Some syrup fell on her dress and the bride lost her crap and started cussing at the groom's mom. I know you lying. The groom got up, grabbed his mom and his family as well as the rest of the people that were attending on his side and walked out. Right, because that's crazy. To cuss out somebody's mom, to cuss out your husband's mom, your new husband's mom, just because she spilled something on your dress. This is small. It doesn't sound like she did it intentionally. Ooh, this person says 3 times. All 3 were folks who entered a relationship because they wanted a relationship, not because they found a person they loved. Then they went and got married too young because that's what you do after a certain amount of time in a relationship. Please, people, take your time picking your person. Someone responded, when I served in the army, I saw this same story unfold over and over and over. 18-year-old kids would show up from basic training and have gotten married between basic and duty assignment. A few months later, the wife would show up when quarters were available. Then, a few months after that, they'd be pregnant. Oh, goodness. Like reading a script, every one of them would say, I've had my fun, it's time to settle down. 18 years old, and just getting married and having kids because that's what you're supposed to do. I'd like to hear updates on those stories. Y'all know how I feel about young marriages and young relationships. I am not an advocate. Someone says, turns out the groom not only had been cheating on his bride, but had done so while they were dating, and the woman, or at least one of them, was apparently at the wedding. I think they split up within a few months. I knew both of them, but have never spoken a word to him since. That is diabolical. To invite your affair partner to the wedding? That's crazy. Someone responded, I know somebody who this happened to, not personally, or else I would have told them the secret already, but through a friend of a friend, and they literally just had a baby. Oh no. I don't know this couple, but it weighs on me so much that me, a complete stranger, knows this awful secret. Ooh, man. Someone else, I went to a wedding for one of my wife's cousins and immediately noticed that she had nothing but contempt for the groom. Full-on, eye-rolling, cold-shouldered disdain. Everyone could feel it. Their body language was that of two co-workers who don't like each other somehow being forced into this marriage. I just can't imagine why you'd go forward with it in those circumstances. And yes, they were divorced within 6 months. Right, because if you don't like the husband, why? Maybe it was an arranged thing. I don't know why someone would agree to be in that unless it was like an arrangement type of situation. Oh wow, this one is tough. Shortly after the wedding, bride was in a traumatic 2-vehicle car accident involving multiple family members. 2 family members passed away. Bride was in an induced coma for some time, missing the funerals even. She broke her back, shattered 3/4 of her face, and had several other injuries. A few weeks after she returned home, her new husband told her she needed to get over the accident. What an a-hole! They didn't last 6 months. Oh my goodness. That's terrible. Get over the 2 of her family members died, bro. She was in a coma. She missed their funeral, broke her back, still had injuries, probably still recovering, and you tell her, get over it? I'm glad they divorced. That's crazy. Another person says, he enlisted in the military, they got married, they announced that they were pregnant, and they broke up. All in less than a year. I don't really know what happened in that relationship, but I suspect they weren't thinking that far ahead. Yeah, just like a previous person said, that's like the formula. It's not a good idea. If you're watching this and you are 18 or in your early 20s, just joining the military, thinking about getting married to someone and starting a family, don't do it. Read this thread. Another person says, a friend of mine's mom got married for the 5th time to a groom who was younger than her adult son. Some kind of redneck brawl broke out at the reception with the groom fighting some of her family. Oh my goodness. He gets an arrest warrant, but bails and evades arrest. She wasn't going to turn in the paperwork, but he gets into some sort of scuffle with the cops and pulls a gun out. Whoa, wait a minute. This escalated very quickly. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He gets into some sort of scuffle with the cops and pulls a gun on them and gets killed by the police. She drops the paperwork in the mail the next day, gets a "don't sue us" settlement from the city/county for the death of her husband. Oh, wow. Wow. That's crazy. I would like to hear more details about this. That's a crazy story. I was not expecting that. Someone said, my best friend got married pretty quickly to this guy who none of us knew too well. The night of her wedding, I had a get-together with some friends who were at the wedding. During the party, my friend shows up, but without her husband, which we all thought was strange. She said he went out with some of his friends. A few months later, he struck her and she noped right out of that marriage. I'm glad she got out of that quick. That is an absolute no. If you even so much as raise your hand at me, it's done for. Someone else, my sister got married to a man that everyone warned her not to marry. He struck her on their wedding night in front of her 2-year-old for wanting to go lay down with their kids because they were tired and it was 8 p.m. He didn't want the party to end. Also found out later that he tried to sell me off to his friends like a pimp. What the hell? It was freaking disgusting of him and majorly offensive. She stayed delusional for years and continued that relationship, had a kid with him, thinking it would fix everything after raising his other kid for him entirely. Then they finally divorced and she's in the same relationship with another guy, just collecting men's forgotten children as she goes. By the way, she's terrible too. She shouldn't be a parent in my opinion. Oh man, that's just sad. That is sad, sad, sad. Those kids, man. Somebody said, Christ on a cracker, lady. Please tell us you are no or low contact with this person. And she said, oh, definitely. The only reason I stayed in her life was to keep an eye on how she treated the kids. She was one of my childhood harmers. I went no contact fully last year due to her leaving me literally in the middle of nowhere, 8 hours from home, and it took the whole day for my partner to come get me after we had a fight about me being the heartless one when she wouldn't let me sit in the front seat when her tiny child was screeching that he hates me and refused to sit next to me for a 12-hour car ride just so she could sit next to my other sister and have an easier conversation with her. While on our way home from visiting my dying, harmful father. The whole family just messed up, because why the other sister didn't say something? Oh, goodness. As in, she wanted me to sit next to a kid that hates me for no reason and would screech the entire time just to sit closer to my little sister in the front seat. Mind you, I'm the tallest member of my family with a brain tumor and cyst that causes an insane amount of car sickness, and I literally don't fit in her back seat, but we had no other options for travel. I honestly regret the trip and wish I didn't go. I only went to support my sisters, but of course, the harmful one made me do a bunch of crap the entire time I couldn't handle, then called me a heartless monster for not being compliant to things I've already established that I can't do for her. Oh no. Yeah, we definitely would be no contact, because ain't no mother freaking way. Ain't no way. Someone says, my sister had a kid with a guy and they decided to get married. Oh, that first sentence is already poor decision making. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, she noticed he was disrespectful and a little controlling. I stupidly told her things like, that could be worked through, and marriage takes work and compromise from both parties. The wedding was a mess. 2 hours behind schedule, the groom had no vows prepared, and they were never legally married. After the wedding, the guy's mask came off and he turned fully harmful and controlling. She tried to make it work, but he had no desire to change. So they ended up splitting after less than a year. But because they had a kid together, he's still in her life and still trying to control her using the kid and weaponized CPS checkups, which turn up nothing. The kid's now 10 and he's picking up all the harmful language and behaviors from his father. Oh gosh. The moral of the story is, as always, if someone shows you who they are, believe them. That's sad, man. Now you got a kid all wrapped up in this crazy situation. Oh, jeez. Someone else says he went crazy. Unfortunately, they got married right as he was losing his mind. They never turned in the paperwork, but she actually tried to stick it out with him for a couple years, but he was in prison most of the time. He was back 3 months before she finally just had to bail. Mental illness is rough. Oh man, I'm hoping for the best for him. That's so sad. I hope he gets some sort of treatment. Unchecked mental health diagnosis is a dangerous state to be in. Someone says, I called my wedding off a few weeks before. My fiance was an alcoholic and I kept thinking he would change. The night I ended it, he had promised me he would never drink again. Not even 20 minutes later, he was slurring his words. I told him the wedding was off and it was rehab or we're through. He chose the bottle. I'm happy though because I'm currently with one of the nicest guys ever who doesn't drink, and we're getting married in May. Okay, girl. See, that's how I feel like some of these other stories need to go. Because why y'all going through with the wedding and then getting divorced 2 days later, cheating on the wedding night, cheating at the reception is crazy. Go ahead and call it off. That's better than putting people through all of that. Just use the wedding as a party or something. I don't know, but going through a whole wedding knowing that you either don't want to get married or actively cheating, or you change your mind shortly after or cheat shortly after, that's just don't make no dang sense. Someone says, we drove 14 hours to a wedding and it was called off 3 hours after we arrived because it came out the bride cheated on the husband with a coworker and dissolved the pregnancy. True story. Even worse, it was his coworker who was invited to the wedding. Double deceit. Oh my goodness. How does that even come out on the... Oh my goodness. Okay, let me read a few more. Bride wanted an open relationship, ended up falling in love with someone else, and the marriage fell apart. Come to find out after the fact that this had been brewing before the wedding, but she didn't call it off because her dad was paying for it and flying across the country, so she felt pressured to follow through, which was super crappy to do in my opinion. My understanding is that she actually left the wedding with the boyfriend instead of her new husband, and they got divorced soon after. I always felt really bad for the husband. He was a nice guy and got blindsided by the whole thing. Without going into too much detail, since I think they are on Reddit, the vibes at the wedding were definitely off, but I didn't know why until months later. Yeah, I mean, 9 times out of 10, when people don't start a relationship as an open relationship and they descend into one, it's typically because they already have someone in mind or they're already cheating and they just want to like absolve the guilt and make it okay. Not a good idea usually. I haven't seen very many stories where it works out well. Another person said, that would be my own wedding. It was arranged and my parents were super confident. Him and his family were great people. We had a pretty good income. They presented themselves as religious and very educated. 3 weeks in, and he started making disrespectful comments about my dad and family overall. I separated and knew I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life with a person who couldn't even respect my parents. After 8 months of narcissistic harm during the separation, he turned my whole life upside down, and by the time we had divorced, I lost and gained a lot of weight, had severe hair loss, depression, and thought I was going crazy or imagining things he did or said because of the constant gaslighting. I failed all my exams and wasted over $6,000 of my tuition fees because I couldn't focus on my exams, so I pretty much failed my whole semester, which set me back academically, and I ended up taking 2 gap years. I couldn't hold chunks of previous 24 hours of my memory often because of all the psychological harm. It's been 3 years and I'm doing a lot better now, regularly attending therapy, got back into uni, and am working part-time to support my studies. I look forward to a happier future. Last I heard of him, he got remarried almost instantly, but I know karma will get him one day. One way or another, God will serve justice, and I will just watch his downfall from afar. Jesus! I hope I'm never subjected to a narc. That sounds terrible. I'll just read one more. And I mean, there's more and more. I could go for probably another 30 minutes, but I'll leave the link if you guys want to check out some of the other comments. Let me do a random one. Let me close my eyes and search for a random one to do for the last one. This one I landed on says, the more expensive the wedding is, the more doomed it is. Go to a redneck wedding catered by Little Caesars, and that marriage will last decades. Somebody responded, hot and ready, baby. So that's the last of the wedding stories. As I said, I'll leave the link to this thread if you want to read it. I'm sure more people will probably add things. This was only posted a day ago. But we will go to the palette cleanser. This is from the Petty Revenge subreddit. Before I read this, just a reminder to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember, road to 10K, yeah, road to 10K, hey, road to 10K, hey, road to 10K, woo, road to 10K, yeah. Anyways, the title of this is Roommate Doesn't Show Up to Clean Apartment. 3 friends decided to be roommates while going to university. Roommate 1 left the apartment after 4 months due to a health issue, but maintained his residence there and stayed over from time to time during treatment. Roommate 2 obtained his diploma, started working, and was in and out due to internships and work trips. He ate mostly takeout but made microwave dinners. Roommate 3 considered himself a chef and made lots of light meals, 6 or 7 a day, rarely washed his dishes or any other cleaning. Comes to the day when they decide to split up the team. 90-day notice given, everyone knows what's up. Dang, 90-day notice, that's generous. Roommate 3 gets his own place and moves out. Leaves several pieces of furniture behind, as well as a mess. Remember, roommate 3 was the self-proclaimed chef who makes 6 to 7 meals a day and don't wash no dishes. While roommate 1 and 2 were out of town, roommate 3 gives his keys to several friends who party a bit and leave empty beer bottles and trash behind. Comes cleanup day, roommate 3 is conveniently working despite knowing about the day for 3 months. Roommate 1 and 2 take the day to clean, pass the inspection, and head out. But roommate 3 had asked some favors of the other 2. Put his desk out for the charity van to pick up, bring his internet cable box and his refrigerator to his apartment. What the hell? He got some pretty big demands for somebody that left a mess and then don't want to help clean it up. Roommate 1 and 2 are the kind of guys who will give the shirt off their backs, but the refrigerator was the last straw. They're also the kind of guys who have a great sense of justice and humor. They kindly put the refrigerator in the apartment along with the internet gear, which was strategically placed atop the refrigerator. Both needed to empty their bladders, but realized the water wasn't on. Or did they turn it off? Oh, and the fridge was placed strategically in front of the door so that when the doughboy shows up, at the end of August, by the way, he'll be unable to get inside without pushing the fridge and thus causing the internet stuff to fall from the top to the floor. By then, the toilet should be pretty ripe too. Hey, I feel like that's a good revenge, because you leave a mess that we have to clean up, we gonna leave a mess for you to clean up. All right, so that's the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.